I don't stand for nonsense! That was it. The last juror's decision. According to this Encyclopedia of British Law, when all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. That's what it says here. Ha! The final verdict. It's over then. Oh! There's a footnote, though. A footnote? However, the defense... All 6 members of the jury are now in agreement in this case. Allow me to convey my respect for your swift, righteous decision. According to the laws of this country, I will now conclude the trial by delivering my final verdict. I trust there are no objections. Miss Sato, just tell me one thing. Oh, yes? You were in the middle of saying something before. The footnote in your Encyclopedia of British Law. However, the defense... What did it say next? Oh, yes, of course. One moment. When all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. Then the footnote says, however, the defense has the right to demand a summation examination of the jurors at this point. Summation examination?
Objection!
A summation examination? From which century has that tome you have there been resurrected? Ah! Judging from the binding, I would say that book is at least 50 years old. Any modern text of British law wouldn't even give such an antiquated procedure a mention. It's a relic, long forgotten and certainly no longer practiced. So you're out of luck. Oh. What even is it, Mr. Sato? This so-called summation examination. Oh, one moment, and I'll read all about it. You would demand the right to a procedure before you even understand what it entails? Typical Nipponese. Okay, dude! Cut the racism out! It's not even funny. It's just mean. Alright, Mr. Naruhodo, I think I understand. It seems that under this procedure, we would be able to appeal to the members of the jury. To do what, exactly? Appeal to them to change their leaning and reverse their decisions. And it says here that, if successful, the proceedings of the trial must be resumed. Make them reverse their decisions? Yes, in times gone by, barristers would use the summation examination to attempt to influence the jury's decision. But that procedure became something of a formality with no practical benefit, really, so it rather fell out of use. I wonder why. Because it was devoid of purpose. Changing just one member of the jury's mind would be hard enough, let alone several. No self-respecting defense barrister would even assert his right to try it in this day and age. Still, I don't see any mention of the procedure actually being formally revoked. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that although it may be antiquated and largely forgotten, it isn't yet extinct. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? A summation examination, our last possible option. Do you assert a right to carry it out or admit defeat? Let's do it! The defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination, my lord.
Objection!
London is the capital city of the most powerful nation on earth. We have a duty to the world to exemplify the very highest standards of judicial procedure. Summation examinations are an embarrassment that should remain buried.
Objection!
But if it's alright, it's alright. I believe it could prove vital in this trial. The defense petition is perfectly valid. The court will proceed with a summation examination. This is madness. Pretty sure this is England. Foreman, are you and the remainder of the jury ready? Huh? Well, I'm not, there's no mention of this in the letter I received, you see, so... All members of the jury will be asked to explain on what grounds they have reached their decision. On what grounds? You must all justify your decisions and explain why you believe the defendant to be guilty. Well, my lord, you're rather putting us on the spot. This is most irregular. No mention was made of this before. I don't really hold with all this justifying lark. That seems to have thrown the jurors off. It seems none of them have experienced this before. Alright then, a summation examination. A defense procedure no practicing lawyer has attempted for years, is it? Well, just maybe. It might be the opportunity we've been looking for. To turn this trial around! So be it then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court hereby calls upon you to state the grounds on which you find the defendant, Magnus McGilded, guilty of this most serious crime. There's no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it has to have been him. I trust the driver. He has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers, with fares totaling 20 pence. He stuck the chap next to him just like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen. I have simply typed and collated all the statements made thus far and drawn the logical conclusion. You can't trust the guild. Fair fares is our motto. We haven't raised prices above 4 pence in years. That scoundrel stabbing the poor men on the floor. It beggars belief. I'm starting to wish I hadn't pushed for this now. Some of the jurors don't seem to have wonderfully formed arguments, though, do they? Well, let's see what we can do. We need to get these 6 people to change their minds. I'll have to throw everything I can at them, and use some very persuasive language. Just a moment, Mr. Naruhodo. According to my book, that's not quite how it works. Oh? Okay, can she read our mind? It really seems like she can read our mind. I thought I was going to have to thaw their icy minds with some heartwarming rhetoric about the defendant. Unfortunately, once the jurors have decided the defendant is guilty, they're unlikely to heed anything the defense says. But then, they've reached their conclusions by their own reasoning, you see. Your pleas will sound like excuses. In fact, it could recoil on you. The more you try to persuade them, the more entrenched they may become. Then what on earth am I supposed to do? Oh dear, I'm just citing what I've read about British law, Mr. Naruhodo. Right, I'm sorry. Do you have any idea how to make this work then? Well, from what I can understand, the key to this procedure is using the jurors' own words to make your arguments. What do you mean? Well, the 6 members of the jury are randomly selected members of the public. They may appear to present a united front, but the truth is, they are complete strangers who just happen to find themselves here in the courtroom together. And that's the way to break them down, you mean? Yes, exactly. We must listen very carefully to what each member of the jury says, and see if we can identify any contradictory statements. If we can, then we can contrast the statements and pit the corresponding jurors against each other. I see. So it's contradictions in what 2 or more jurors say that we're looking for. In a way, then, this is similar to a regular cross-examination. Oh, yes! I suppose you're right. find contradictions in their statements, and pit the jurors against one another to break them down. Alright, I might be able to pull this off. No, that's not right. I have to pull this off! Can we start the proceedings, counsel? I would ask you to take the stand for this. I'm expecting a clear and concise rebuttal. Yes, my lord. Aw, yeah. Here we go. We're at the forefront now. Okay, so we're getting close to where I was before, but unfortunately, I now remember what I need to do. So what we want to do, for starters, you want to pit juror number 2 against juror number 5, and this is why. She's saying the fare is totaling 20 pence, but he's saying the price is 4 pence. So the numbers don't add up here.
Objection.
And our good friend Ryunosuke is going to explain why. Those two statements clearly contradict each other. They do? Explain yourself, counsel. Me? Oh dear, what have I said? I swear on Silver Blaze's mane and name, I haven't the first idea what you're talking about. According to the group testimony we've heard so far, there were 4 passengers on the omnibus in the night in question. And according to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 20 pence in fares. Quite right, I have those precise details typed neatly here in front of me. And juror number 5 also told us the following. The fare for the omnibus is always 4 pence. That it is, a fair and convenient single price, just the way London's carriages should be operated. But that doesn't add up at all. In fact, there's a glaring discrepancy in the facts. Why, man? Why? 4 passengers paying 4 pence each. If you do the multiplication, it would be 16 pence. Exactly. As I said, it doesn't add up. The figures are different. By 4 pence, in fact. Or precisely, 1 person's fare. 1 person's fare? Yes! In other words, on the omnibus that night, it's distinctly possible. There was another passenger we've heard nothing about. Good gracious! Oh, he's so cool. This can't be right. The coachmen of the guild are good, honest men, once and for all. Trustworthiness is our watchword. The figures your coachman claims most certainly do not add up. Your watchword, good sir, is a fallacy. I beg your pardon? Mr. Guildmaster, I think you ought to consider that if this trial were to end now, the news surely will spread all over London. The news that one of your coachmen tried to hide the fact that he lets nefarious characters ride his omnibus. Alright then, how do I make it so this miserable trial doesn't end, Well, according to my book here, you simply launch a ball of fire into the innocent side and set the scales. Now hold your horses there, coachman. We were all in agreement. Why do you have to go and... Wait till I get my hands on you, Beppo! This is all very irritating. Begging your pardon, sir. I'm going to do the same. For the love of Mike! Not you as well! A penny can be the difference between a smile and a tear, after all. I certainly can't put my trust in someone who doesn't follow my exacting standards in financial matters. Oh, really? I, for one, think it's only proper that we hear from the witnesses again. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo, you did it! If we can manage to change 2 more jurors' minds, we can force the trial to continue. 2 more. Actually, there is something else that's bothering me about a couple of their assertions. then that's where you must strike next. So I need to pit 2 more jurors against each other and show there's another contradiction in their assertions. Exactly. You could do it. Well, the scales of justice have shifted, but they still weigh heavy on the side of guilt. Counsel, you have the floor again. Continue with your summation examination. Alright. So the next one you gotta do, and at this point we're just about caught up to where I previously was. You pit Juror 3 against Juror 6, because he's saying that he was struck from the side, where she's saying stabbed on the floor. That's not right. So let's pit these two against each other and see what happens.
Objection.
Those two statements are completely contradictory. What? Explain, counsel, post haste. Oh dearie me, I was only knitting a jumper for my other half. What is all this claptrap? What does contradictory even mean, I ask you? We've heard from more than one witness that they allegedly saw the actual moment when the defendant stabbed the victim. Now, out of curiosity, juror number 3. What? Can't you see I'm busy here with this knife that I'm probably not legally to have in this room? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim? What sort of motion was it? Ha! Want to test me, do you? It was like this. Stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up. Just like the prim banker said. Yes, that's what Mr. Fairplay's testimony. Quite true. Now then, juror number 6. Oh? Is it me, is it? What can I do for you, young man? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim, madam? Oh? Well, dear, as far as I understand it, it was like this. He stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. The coachman said so. Now, don't move! Take a look at these 2 jurors. He stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up. And he stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor. Well, I never! They're stabbing in totally different directions. What? Bless my stitches! What a muddle! What this tells us is that there's a strong possibility one of the witnesses isn't telling the truth. Oh! But why? Why the dickens would they lie? I don't know that yet, but what I do know is that if the trial ends at this point, we may never find out. We may never know the real truth. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you really let that happen in all good conscience? Lies, you say? Oh, dearie me. I can't abide people telling lies. The scales. I don't believe it. Yeah, we're balanced out. Wait! Now hear this, my fellow jurors. I warn you, you cannot listen to this man. Look at him in his black suit. He's clearly some devious Eastern sorcerer using magic on us all. Okay, again, racist, but also, well, I guess you're not really wearing a black suit. You're wearing a brown suit. Okay, fine. You're still racist. If I could use magic, do you really think I'd be putting myself through all this? Answer me this, dark chinks. Huh? Me? What exactly is the problem? What of it the 2 witnesses have slightly different recollections of events? What of it? Let's say Shylock did stab the victim as he was sat next to him on the omnibus. This young Dante saw him do it. And now let's say the victim collapsed on the floor, and then the Shylock stabbed him again. This old lady saw him do it. Well, what's to say it didn't happen like that, Who are you calling a dandy, sir? Why, I should take this knife to you. Who are you calling old? Why, I should take this needle to you. Ugh, they're ready to kill each other now. But could the foreman of the jury be right? Did the 2 witnesses see 2 different moments of the same crime? I want to check one quick thing. No, because it's not, because it's a single stab him to the abdomen. That's right. I knew it. It's out of the question. Unfortunately, Mr. Foreman. What's it, you dark jinx? Come out with it. What you're suggesting is impossible. It's out of the question. What are you talking about, man? How can you possibly say that? You do realize that I'm only doing my job. As foreman of the jury, I have a responsibility to steer everyone in the right direction. It's my job too. So where's your evidence, man? That's what we want to see. I say the two witnesses saw 2 different moments of the same crime. You say that's out of the question. Show me some proof. It looks like the only way I'm going to convince him is to present him with something he can't dismiss. Some irrefutable, hard evidence. As you wish. What? I'll give you the proof. It's out of the question that the 2 witnesses saw 2 different moments of the same crime, as proven by the autopsy report! This is the victim's autopsy report. According to what's written here, Mr. Mason was stabbed in the abdomen only once. Huh? Only once? It's quite simple. The victim was stabbed precisely 1 time. Which means these witnesses can't possibly have seen it happen 2 different times. Alright. I can see defeat. Boom! Tipping the scales! Wait, that means 4 jurors are now leaning to not guilty. We've done it, Mr. Naruhodo. We've won. I don't think it's over yet. What are you playing at, you dandy fool? Shut your trap, sir. No one deceives me. But we had a consensus. I said shut your trap. I know a liar when I see one. And if the chap ever dares to cross the threshold of my shop, I'll take this razor-sharp blade and shave every last hair off his head. Please, for the love of God, stop licking your knife, man! Please tell me he's a barber. Well, in a quite remarkable turn of events, the defense's summation examination has flipped the balance of the scales of justice. The jurors now stand at 2 for guilty and 4 for not guilty. Accordingly, there is no longer a large enough majority among the jury for me to adjudicate. And the trial must continue. Aw yeah, we're the man. I hereby ask the defense, prosecution, and witnesses to return to their places. And I call upon all of you to continue to pursue the truth. So, Lord Van Zieks, continue to substantiate the case for the prosecution, if you please. Not expecting that. Having savored the rich aroma of the carmine contents of this hallowed chalice, it may seem crass to crush it to dust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zieks! Is it cold in here, or is it just me? As your antiquated tome no doubt says, the prosecution may not speak during a summation examination. So I honored a deathly silence and listened to the charade. It seems I overestimated the intelligence of the jury. Well, no matter. There is nothing so hard to prove as a self-evident truth, it would seem. No, and why else would we grace our courtroom with our presence after all? So, Let us proceed to the next round of battle. Oh, shoot! Bring forth the witnesses once more! Witnesses! I trust you heard the summation examination we have just had to endure. Oh, yes, sir. That I did, sir. Of course I heard it. Oh, yes, sir. I heard it. You, sir, on the end, the coachman. I believe it's Beppo? Yes, sir. My lord, sir. If it transpires in your precious testimony that you were attempted to veil the presence of a fifth passenger on your omnibus, you will be found guilty of perjury. You are advised to bear that in mind, sir. Oh, mio Dio. Now the witnesses, I hereby call on you to testify before the court again. You will explain the various misgivings brought to our attention by the defense's summation examination. Let's do it again. I only carried 4 passengers that night. I swear, but well, I for one was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus. He fiddled us on the ferry, did? And then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much. I tell you, I saw McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands. Oh yes, he stabbed him. Yes, he did. I think so. Yes. Okay, that's not as concrete as before. So that's good. Counsel, make sense of this for me, please. The phantom fifth passenger conjured into existence by my learned Eastern friend never existed. The confusion has arisen from the coachman's sly little cosenage. Beppo, explain yourself! I'm terribly sorry, Guildmaster. Oh wow, his eyes. The guild's fare is 4 pence across the board. You know that. Am I to understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny a fare? It's so cold, and the last run of the day is always half empty. You have been dishonest, coachman. I'm sorry. You're a disgrace, Beppo! A disgrace! And your selfish actions have brought dishonor on the entire guild! If I may, sir? I had to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week. What?! 4 passengers at 5 pence each is 20 pence. I've done the arithmetic 10 times already, but I just can't make the result come out differently. No, that figures. Well, it would appear that one of the aforementioned misgivings has already been explained. So, counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, if you please. We've already had the pleasure of a protracted summation examination today. I see you intend to continue the parlor games. Absolutely!
Hold it!
So, there were only 4 passengers on your carriage, but you didn't charge them the standard 4 pence fare. Is that right? It's impossible to make the last run a day pay! I was just so cold, and all I could do to stop myself is from passing out. I'm getting chill blades just listening to you. It was terrible, so I wanted to give myself a pat on the back for even keeping the bus running. Doesn't a dedicated coachman deserve an extra penny per passenger? You're digging a deeper hole for yourself here. If only there had been a 5th passenger in the omnibus that night. Then we would have another suspect. Oh man, he's affecting me.
Hold it!
Does that mean everyone on board that night paid 5 pence instead of 4? Well, I paid 5 pence too, sir. And I just told you that I did. A flat fare of 5 pence across the board. It's not something to be proud of. The so-called discrepancy my learned friend identified was nothing of the sort. Much like the Phantom Killer you so desperately needed, it's gone, dead and buried. I'd have been happy if it had ever existed in the first place.
Hold it!
This blood-curdling sight. You mean the murder, I presume? Yes, sir! A loathsome sight. No one should have to witness the horror in the eyes of a man the moment his life is taken. Oh, well, not exactly, sir. I mean, I didn't actually see the exact moment the gent was stabbed. Good gracious, really? We have another witness who did, however. The banker has already testified to it. Mr. First didn't actually see the point at which the victim was killed. That may turn out to be very significant. I heard the banker gent next to me take a sharp intake of breath, see? That's when I looked through the glass. That's when I saw that horrible blade poking out from his belly, all covered in blood. Every time I see a knife now, I can't help screaming, even when I'm eating. So you saw the defendant, Mr. McGilded, stabbing the victim, Mr. Mason, who was sitting next to him? That's what I said, isn't it? It was bothering me before, this was. Oops. For just a brief moment, he hesitated before answering the question. Anyway, there was only 2 of them inside the carriage, wasn't there? There's been much talk of a 5th passenger, but as yet, 0 evidence. Then what are we wasting all this time for, eh? It's black and white. The man's guilty. Something about Fairplay's testimony just jars with me. I wish I could work out what it was. Oh, yes. He stabbed him. Yes, he did. I think so. Yes.
Hold it!
Earlier, you testified that you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you? Oh, yes. Yes, that's right. You said that the victim was on the floor and described the assailant holding the knife in an ice pick grip. I suppose. I might have, yes, put the cart before the horse, maybe. What's this? Well, I'm quite sure about most of it. I was driving the horse when I heard the scream from the seats of the roof deck. Oh, I expect that was me, sir. Then when it turned around, yes, I saw it through the skylight. The gentleman was on the floor and the knife was sticking up of his midriff. That's right, yes, and the fellow holding the handle was the famous man. Yes. So, in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all? I really thought I did, but when I could go over to get in my head, no, I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing. Hey, hold on, buddy.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay? Now you listen to me. I know what you're thinking. You didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that? Eh? Are you asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered. I might be able to extract some new information from him if I answer him cleverly. Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed? No chance. Well, it is a little hard to believe, certainly. Unless you spend your time peeping through the skylight on top of an omnibus, that is. Peeping? I'm a respectable city banker, I'll have you know. And I know what I saw. I remember as clear as a Ballarat day. It was a grim scene, I don't mind telling you. Thank you, Mr. Fairplay. Oh, excuse me, I was getting a little hot under the collar there, my lord. I would ask you to supplement your testimony with a clear statement about what exactly you saw. Oh, I can do that all right. I'll tell you just how grim it was. There we go. Do you think I'd forget the sight of those blood-soaked hands after the butcher stabbed the man?
Hold it!
Blood-soaked? Ahem. Well, perhaps soaked isn't laying it on a little thick. But anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. And you saw that from the roof? Through the skylight? Well, the skylight's reasonably large, so I had a pretty good view. There was a lamp on the inside of the carriage as well, so I'm quite sure of what I saw. This banker's latest statement. I feel sure there's something not quite right about it. When you feel something doesn't add up, Mr. Naruhodo, that's when you should have a good look through the court record. Gee, thanks. Okay, so I'm gonna try to present with this because he said there's a blood stain on the right glove. He's saying gloves, so let's see if this works.
Objection.
There we go. Blood-soaked hands. Well, I admit that soaked might be laying on a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Well, I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay. But that's more than a little peculiar. What? Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGill, did on the night in question. Oh, yes. Right. And there certainly does appear to be a sizable dark-colored stain there. But, as I'm sure you can clearly see, it's only on the right-hand glove. Ah! Don't eat your cane, it's not a ring pop. In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony is inconsistent! But no! That can't be right! So you're the liar here then! Gah! That's right! You were quite clear about it. You said, "Grr." It was both hands! Grr. Mr. Fairplay, your last statement was a lie. It calls your entire testimony into question. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed. But is that really the truth?
Objection.
It was a simple mistake. You can't justify accusing this man of lying. Yeah, we can. It's a courtroom. Yes, it wasn't both hands. It was only one. But the fact remains. The victim's blood was on the accused.
Objection.
No, Mr. Fairplay categorically stated he saw blood all over both hands. Which means there's a strong possibility that this witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court. Gah! Why? I'm a city banker, for pity's sake. My word should be the gold standard. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding members of society don't prevaricate. He's claiming to have no reason to lie. Is that really the case? Mr. Naruhodo, we had some evidence to explain why Mr. Fairplay might be lying. It could turn the tide in this trial completely. Something to show this man's compelling reason to lie in his testimony. I want to check one thing. The portfolio must contain all sorts of secrets of London's gentry. Oh dear, do you really think we ought to look inside? Well, it's not as though we know any of London's gentry personally, is it? Apart from our great detective friend, perhaps. Actually, I wonder... I assure you, we will not find Mr. Sholm's name inside. Well, let's see what we find. Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it? Well, I suppose they're probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? After all, not everyone in this country is well off. Ah! Goodness! What is it? Look at this! Do you see the name here? Bruce Fairplay. I knew it! Should that mean something to me? It does sound strangely familiar, actually. Bruce Fairplay, the witness testifying at this very moment! Oh, yes, of course, the banker! Why is his name in here? Ah, he borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching. It's possible that this is just a coincidence, of course, but this could be very useful information. Alright, there we go. I knew there was a little detail in there. Oh, I have evidence, baby. My lord. Yes, counsel? The defense is ready to present evidence. By Jove, are you sure? Yes, evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had reason to lie in his testimony. Gah! Very well. I hereby call on the defense to present its evidence. The evidence that demonstrates a motive for the witness's alleged deception of the court.
Take that!
This is a list of debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded. Yes, a list of innocent victims crippled by the accused's extortion. The point is, among the names of these debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay. What? Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused? No, well, it's barely worthy being called a debt. According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas. Not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say? Ugh! Well, what of it? Let's suppose Mr. McGilded were to be found guilty of murder. What would become of your debt in that case? These documents say that the loan agreement is forged between two individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to a capital punishment, all outstanding debts which are owed to him would be annulled. They would cease to exist. Cease to exist? Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw? In a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 guineas to the defendant? Stop eating your ring pops! Order! 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 Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Yes, my lord? Let me ask you again. And be aware that your answer may have most serious implications upon your future, sir. Did you or did you not see the precise moment in time at which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim? Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony. All right. Now let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth a pinch. A pinch? But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on McGilded's hands. Both of them.
Objection!
And yet only one of the defendant's gloves, which we have here as evidence, is stained. So you keep saying. I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir? Go ahead, Mr. First. Well, the thing is, I think I remember seeing it myself, as it happens. I thought you just said you didn't. Seeing what? The blood, sir, on the assailant's hands. I think, yes. I'm almost sure that it was on both of his hands, not just one. What? What? I'm so confused right now. It would appear that we're going to need further testimony from all you witnesses. This time, I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Yargs. Mr. Naruhodo, this is good news. The courts of the trial seem to have shifted slightly at last. Yes. I might finally have a chance to turn things around here. There was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired, if that matters. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attackers' hands with the blood on them. I didn't actually see anything myself, no, not until I heard that scream. Anyway, the fact remains. There can't have been anyone else inside that carriage, or we would all have seen. Well, lo and behold. In truth of fact, not one of you was witness to the crucial moment the crime was perpetrated. I apologize, my lord, but honestly, there was no one else inside that carriage, and the man's hands were covered in blood. That much incriminating evidence is tantamount to saying we saw the man do it. That's really not what testimony is about. Let us examine the interior of the omnibus once more. The victim's fresh blood is clearly visible on the seat, corroborating the witness's accounts. In other words, there is no substantial or significant change in the facts of the case. Very well. Your cross-examination, please, counsel. Yes, my lord. Alright. Just check each statement again.
Hold it!
No! The evidence tells us otherwise. We have the gloves the defendant was wearing on the night in question in the court record. I'm well aware of that, sir, but nevertheless. I know what I saw and I stand by it. The man had blood on both his hands. He's defiant, even in the face of hard evidence. He steadfastly refuses to admit that he might be mistaken about what he saw. But why? Your reasoning is dire. One hand or two, the salient point remains unchanged. Minutes after the grim crime, the victim's blood dripped guiltily from the accused's fingers.
Hold it!
Don't try to downplay this. Whether or not you saw the exact moment of the crime is a matter of fundamental importance, as well you know. But for crying out loud, we all know that no one else could possibly have done it. I was just trying to save us all some time. You have a loan of 20 guineas outstanding with the defendant, do you not? How do you hope to release yourself from that financial burden by ensuring the defendant was found guilty? Well, that's not entirely not what I was hoping for. I just lost a little guinea or 10 when I backed the wrong horse in the Derby, that's all. I was going to win all back. There's a fixture this weekend, that's a sure thing. A little guinea or 10? I'm a banker. No one bats an eye if I borrow a little spending money for the weekend. I think you may have revealed rather more about your character than you bargained for, sir. Yeah, is gambling illegal at this point in time? I don't know. This witness's scruples are not all on trial here. Proceed to the next witness. Is that really how it's supposed to work?
Hold it!
You definitely saw that too? Blood on both hands? Yes, sir. I mean, I know what you're going to say. Only one of Miss McGill's gloves has any signs of blood on it. That's right. The thing is, as far as I remember, sir, When I looked down and saw Mr. McGillis sitting beside the other fellow, I don't believe he was wearing any gloves, sir. He wasn't wearing these gloves? That's correct, sir. And I saw blood on both his bare hands quite clearly. It's true the dark-colored stand and the dark leather gloves wouldn't have been easy to see. I should point out that the police officer who apprehended the accused on the night in question reported that there was no trace of blood on Mr. McGillicud's gloved hands. There wasn't blood in his hands? This is puzzling indeed. This must be significant somehow. I'm sure of it.
Hold it!
You didn't see anything? Oh, yes, sir. That is to say, no, sir, I didn't. Very sorry about what I said before, sir. Very sorry. Yes. It was very wrong of me to make up stories and say I saw him stab the man. Would you agree, sir? I know what you're insinuating, but I clearly wasn't making up stories. Still, to say you saw nothing isn't right either, is it? No, sir, I saw nothing at all. Mr. Beppo, you were driving your horses. At the very least, you must have enjoyed a good view of London streets, no? Oh, please, you didn't even see that. It was so cold that night, you see. It was all I could do to keep myself from passing out, sir. Yes, my head was fairly frozen solid. Sorry to say, sir. It would seem prudent to avoid travel on the last omnibus service of London's cold winter nights. Beppo! Ah! And everything you saw of the incident was through the skylight and the roof of the omnibus? That's right. It was fiercely cold that night, but the glass wasn't frosted over. Oh yes, I remember. I was shivering. It was so bitter. Which rather begs the question of why the pair of you were sitting on the roof deck in the first place. Well, I don't know about this young fellow, but I couldn't enter the cabin. Oh? Why not? It was locked from the inside. I tried knocking, but no one opened the door. It was locked? That's right! It's a public bus service, for pity's sake. That's not what I call fair play. Yes, I had exactly the same experience. I tried knocking, but the gent inside just gestured at me to clear off. So I had no choice but to climb up to the roof deck and look down longingly into the warm cabin below. Well, I can assure you I wasn't just looking down, I was glaring long and hard. And that's precisely why I can tell you with absolute confidence that if there was anyone else at all in that cabin, I would have noticed. Unequivocal, I would say. I'm not sure about these two witnesses. Could they really have seen everything inside the cabin through the skylight? I don't know, honestly. They might not have been able to. Allow me to confirm one thing, Mr. Fairplay. You were riding this omnibus and witnessed the events of the cabin through the skylight on the floor of the upper deck. Is that right? That's right? Yes. In that case, there is a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you. What? By golly, really? Obviously, at this stage, we can't say for sure. But the possibility cannot be denied that at the time of the incident, there could have been another passenger in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus.
Objection!
Enough hypothetical meandering, my Nipponese friend. As soon as you stop with the racism. The prosecution demands that you substantiate your claims. After all, the scene of the crime is here, in the flesh. Very well, I will uphold the prosecution's demand. You will identify the area of the cross-sectional plan of the omnibus. Where exactly in the omnibus are you suggesting that this potential extra passenger could have been situated? So if they were looking through the skylight... It's one of these two spots. But I think it's this one. Just because, based on the description of the angle they were looking at.
Take that!
Both rows of seats on the roof face in the direction of travel. Whereas the seats in the enclosed cabin face each other. Which means the visible part of the cabin, which passengers on the roof deck can see through the skylight, as I've drawn here. Ah! That's right, my lord. As you can see, the seat opposite the one which the victim and his attacker were sitting is obscured from view. In other words, if someone had been sitting on that seat, it's quite possible these witnesses would have been completely unaware of it. Ah!
Objection!
It's quite possible some phantom was sitting there. You Nipponese have a forbidding habit of obscuring the truth with ambiguity. I concur with the prosecution's rejoinder. In a British court of law, evidence is paramount. I cannot entertain this conjecture, counsel. That is, unless you're able to put a name to this mysterious passenger to whom you allude. Can you, Mr. Naruhodo? I honestly don't know. Who could it have been? Who could have been in the other seat, which is out of sight from the witnesses or the roof deck? I have no idea, I think is the right answer. Ugh, I have literally no idea.
But as a proud citizen of the
Japanese Empire, you will look to the sky and walk on, making sure all signs of tears are gone. Go on! This isn't just a case of going on, Mrs. Sato. Alright then, I'll go on. Defense would like to put forward a name. Okay, I guess we do have to put a name. You are a fool. That response was a desperate attempt by a man who has no notion of his own limitations. A toast to hard lessons not yet learnt. Let's not delay, counsel. Defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat. This could be it. This could be the chance I've been waiting for to turn the trial in my favor. On that night, on the night of the murder, the person occupying a seat in the omnibus cabin that was obscured from the view was, I think, McGilden, right? That would make the most sense to me.
Take that!
The passenger in the enclosed cabin that the witnesses on the roof deck failed to see has to have been Magnus McGilded. Mr. McGilded? What are you talking about, counsel? That's the name of the defendant.
Objection!
What the man? If I desecrate this chamber by smashing my hollow chalice, do forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zeeks! People talk of those tiny island nations of Far East as having a learning and culture of their own. There's only, this whole video is just gonna be, racist comments. My god. But I see they use the terms ill-advisedly. What are you trying to say? Let me explain in terms that even a student of an artless backwater, such as yourself, might understand. When the bloody scene unfolded, the victim and his assailant were sitting side by side. Multiple witnesses have attested to the fact. It's the very premise on which this case is built.
Objection!
But that premise may be wrong. What? If the victim really was sitting beside Mr. McGilded, it creates an inconsistency that can't be reconciled in any way. What inconsistency, counsel? The defendant's gloves, my lord. Both witnesses made the same testimony. They claim that there was blood on both hands of the person sitting next to the victim.
Objection!
Yet we know the truth to be otherwise. Only one glove bears the gory remains.
Objection!
The point is, even in the face of this irrefutable evidence, both witnesses have maintained their stance. Yes, their testimony remains unchanged. Exactly. They both adamantly swear that they certainly remember seeing blood on both hands of the assailant. In short, their memory of events is correct, and their testimony reveals the truth. It was somebody else sitting beside the victim that night, a third party we have yet to identify. And the victim's blood was on the passenger's hands, both of them.
Objection!
And who was this third party? Obviously, the true culprit. Extraordinary! Order! 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 What exactly are you postulating?
Objection!
The defense's postulation is just that. Nothing more than conjecture. The witnesses have clearly stated that they saw the accused.
Objection!
But when elaborating on his testimony, Mr. Fairplay said the two of them were wearing hats and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. Yes. The tops of their heads were obscured by the roof. I could see the rest of them, though. Yes, that's right. Both gents were most certainly hatted. Hatters do tend to notice such things, sir. And what particular styles of hat did the two gentlemen sport, Mr. First? I'm afraid I don't remember. And you call yourself a hat? Wow, he's making the commentary for me. I don't have to do anything. I was literally thinking that exact phrase word for word. The style of hat makes no difference. There was no third passenger in that cabin. How can you be sure? Because if there had been, the accused, Mr. McGilden, would undoubtedly have offered to dispose the fact. Unless, that is, you are proposing an even more preposterous explanation. That the accused failed to even notice the presence of the true culprit in the very cabin in which he traveled? Actually, it's totally possible. He's right. If there was another person traveling in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus, it's inconceivable Mr. McGilden would have been unaware of it. Order! There is clearly a simple solution to this problem. Bring the accused, Mr. McGilden, to the stand. Well, what say you, counsel? The prosecution objects, my lord. On what grounds? I don't want to. As a suspect, he will have already made a full statement to the police. But what if there's some reason why he's unable to speak freely? Magnus McGilden is no uneducated ruffian. If it indeed turns out the man has been withholding information, you can be sure it will have been a most deliberate act. Counsel for the defense, what is your opinion? My lord? Should we ask Mr. McGilden to testify or not? I want his testimony. I think I know what to take away from it. Yes, we need to hear what he has to say in order to find out the truth. The defense would like to call Mr. McGilden to the stand. In that case, I'd like to hear the opinion of the jury. Yes, I need a little time to consider this. If you ask me, I think we should hear what Mr. McGilden has to say. Get the man out here, I say! It would be utterly illogical not to hear his testimony. When something needs doing, get it done. That's how I run things at the guild. Hearing what the patron of my favorite little park has to say? Oh yes, that would be lovely. Yes! The jury says the man must be heard. Very well. The court will hear the defendant's testimony. Bailiff, show the defendant to the stand at once. Now, maybe what actually happened that night will finally become clear. Let proceedings be resumed. Mr. McGilded, have you been listening to the discourse of the day? To be sure I have, my lord. There are now 2 matters on which the court desires to hear from you. The first is whether or not there was a third party with you in the omnibus cabin, as proposed by the defense. The second is that if such a person was indeed present, why did you conceal that fact from the police? Begad, no, 'tis not in my nature to hide anything at all. Just answer the questions, please. The truth of the matter is, I've been desperate about this all along. Do I tell yous all, or keep my mouth shut? Tell us what, Mr. McGilded? The fine fellow representing me is absolutely right. In the carriage on the night with myself and the other man, there was another passenger. It's true? Aye, and 'twas me who helped the little urchin get away after it all— What? Why? Why do you do these things? You— What? Why do you do these things? No, Magnus McGilded. That convenient excuse can't save you now. I'm truly sorry, so I am, Lord Van Zieks. I'm sure you'll be wanting to know why I said nothing when I was taken in by the police. I do be having a very good reason, I assure you. Which was? Well, the little child was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Not in any way involved, you see. What? If the police had known the wee one was there, they'd have assumed she'd done it. They'd have hauled her to this here courtroom just like myself. I was only trying to spare her on that. Young hearts and young minds are easily damaged, my lord. And who was this young child of whom you speak? That I don't know. You don't know? Aye, well, the wee teen just happened to be in the carriage that night. I never saw her before or since.
Objection!
We have absolutely no reason to believe this man. The prosecution calls for the witness's statements to be disregarded by the court. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the urchin isn't here in this courtroom as we speak, listening to the proceedings. What? Okay, was not expecting that. What is going on? Be careful, Mr. Hello, cover your face. Bailiff, don't let the accused escape. Secure the omnibus. I hereby call an emergency recess. Bailiff, ensure defendant is in custody and clear the courtroom. We were hurriedly removed from the smoke-filled courtroom by the bailiff. Amid scenes of chaos as people stumbled over one another in their desperation to flee the chamber. We had no idea what was happening. All we knew is that, for the time being at least, the trial was suspended. Okay, that was an incredibly long episode, guys. Thank you for hanging in there. So, yeah, we made it into London. We met our client, Mr. McGilded, after getting a chance to become a lawyer. We fought a little bit in court, overturning a guilty verdict by the jury. And now we were forced out of the courtroom by, I guess, a smoke grenade of some kind? We'll work that out next time. So next time on The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, we'll have a recess and we'll figure out exactly what caused that smoke explosion. See you guys then.